So, welcome to this podcast, Bobby. So, today's topic is build versus buy. So, in today's times, there's a lot of talk about agentic AI. Client organizations are confused about buy versus build decisions. Do we
Yeah.
go to a company, external company, to have agentic AI solutions implemented, or build agentic AI processes within their organizations through their internal teams? So, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
No, I think you're right. There's a lot of amazing innovation that's happening, and it's exciting to see all of this stuff going on. I sometimes think that I'm living in a very amazing time to see all of this transformation that's being driven, but it's also very confusing for a lot of people. While companies are making their best effort to create new solutions, leveraging agentic AI capabilities, many customers are still very confused, like you said. I think there's 4 or 5 factors that really a business owner should think through as they are figuring out whether they want to buy an off-the-shelf product or maybe build a custom product on LLM solutions or somewhere in between, maybe buy a standard product and customize it. So in my mind, it's very important for the business owner to understand what is the problem they're trying to solve. Is it a core problem to their business, a core competency that's going to be enhanced with this new solution, or is it a peripheral solution? In other words, if it's trying to solve a problem that every other company is also trying to solve, and they have very similar ways of doing that process today, then probably buying off the shelf is a good idea. But if you have something that's very core to your business, a competency that you have that makes it an advantage in the space that you operate, it's probably better to build it or maybe buy something off the shelf and customize it. So there's, gradients of whether it's complete, built from scratch, or customized. So that's the first factor. Are you addressing a problem that's core to your business, core competency for your business, or is it something that's a peripheral function, a non-core function? The second factor is how unique is your process, even though it is a non-core process, but the way you deliver that process is very unique. The way you want to treat your customers through that process is very different than how the competition does it. Maybe there is an opportunity to then build something versus buy, because typical off-the-shelf products are not going to have too much degree of customization, although that's changing as well. Today you're taking a decision to buy something that may be very different in 6 to 12 months because the speed of innovation is that fast. Right. In the past, when you bought a new platform, you were keeping it for at least 4 to 5 years. Today, that is not the case. So that decision becomes a little bit more complicated because what you buy today may be trashed in 1 to 2 years. The third factor is very important in our space. A lot of our clients have sensitive customer data, a lot of core competence that is intellectual property, and you don't want to put that into an off-the-shelf product. So companies that deal with confidential information, strategic information about their business, how they operate, you probably want to go with a build decision where you can control most, if not all, of the parameters, right?
Sure.
So knowing your data risks, your regulatory compliance requirements is very important as a third factor. The fourth factor, which a lot of companies realize later on, is the integration depth, right? Today, in the day and age of APIs, integration is not a problem. But a lot of companies still operate with old platforms. You've got mainframes still that are in the business, and integrating with a mainframe on using an off-the-shelf product is not that easy, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to find solutions where they will sell you, it's out of the box integration with 70 different platforms, but most large companies are going to have internally developed platforms that are not going to be easy to integrate, and it's going to be another nightmare. So that knowing what is your integration depth and what type of platforms are you integrating with is very important to know upfront. And the last one is, and that's something you may find at a later stage as well. Once you make the decision, is do you have the technical depth, technical core competence in your organization to build something internally? In those cases, if you do not have the technical depth, it may be better to buy something off the shelf, build that experience in-house, and maybe do that with a non-core area, and then start building the overall internal technical strength to be able to customize something in the future.
Sure.
Those are the five factors, right, in my mind. Um, are you solving for a core need or a non-core need? How unique is the value of the process that you're trying to automate? Data sensitivity, regulatory requirements, integration depth. Is it 4 systems you're integrating with a 20? And how unique are those systems in the space? And the last being, do you have the internal capacity in your technology organization? So it can be fairly complicated decision framework, but if you kind of start laying it out into different components, it becomes easier.
Sure.
What do you think?
No, I think that's a very good decision framework, Bobby. So let's delve a little bit deeper into suppose I am I have to take the decision of buy or build, and let's discuss how should I go about it. So why don't we start with you, Bobby, first, and then, or maybe let me talk about the buy process, and then you can speak about the build. So I think the decision framework is pretty good, what you explained. And there are organizations which have very strong preference to buy over build. Some of the thoughts around that is that the technology is changing so fast that building those solutions may land you into a multi-year project, or you may get stuck with a particular technology, a particular model. So it's definitely better to go for a buy kind of a solution. And when you're speaking to a partner, vendor partner, there are some few things which you have to keep in mind as you go through the decision process. So there would be partners who just come up with some demos here and there, and probably they try to convince you with those demonstrations.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have to see you need to have a proper evaluation metrics, evaluation frameworks, and see exactly maybe if they can give you like a sandbox environment where you can play with that solution, you can put in some of your use cases and see how it is working. So don't completely rely on those demos. That is number one.
Yeah.
Number two, try to understand the total cost of ownership. Sometimes buy solutions may look very cost effective in the beginning, but you may get logged with that vendor because you have trusted them with a lot of critical processes, which probably the cost of shift is going to be very, very expensive. So always look at the total cost of ownership for 3 years, 5 years, and compare it with a build kind of an option. And then thirdly, of course, the advantage with buy, which clearly is that look for solutions where if you have to change something in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you should be able to do it. It should not disturb your underlying process, which is suppose the agentic AI solution is sitting on a critical process or you have implemented there, then see that if I have to shift a vendor partner, that it doesn't disturb my dynamics. So these are some of my thoughts on when you're trying to make a buy process. Of course, this is after you have gone through that decision framework or those 5 parameters you just explained, Bobby. So I would love to hear your thoughts on the build, some of the things you have to keep in mind besides those important parameters.
Besides those parameters, I think it's important to understand anytime you build a solution, you're buying a big, massive solution that you're going to have to maintain yourself. You are bearing the entire cost of ownership for that product. So knowing very well that how this is going to fit into your long-term goal of owning that product, maintaining that product, enhancing that product is very important. A lot of companies may think, oh, I can build something for $500,000, $1 million, and be on the road in the next few months because development cycle times are so fast. Well, the underlying solutions are basically LLMs, and those are changing. new capabilities are being added to LLMs every day.
Right.
You're surely going to need to change that solution you build internally next year. So keeping the cost of doing that is very important. So while building a solution is very, very critical in many cases, but a lot of companies may not think about the total cost of ownership. The third element which I feel is that's very important is when you build a solution, if somebody changes the underlying LLM capability, now you're left with a solution that may not work because the underlying assumptions that you had are not valid anymore. So knowing how your solution is going to adjust in those situations, or creating capability that when your underlying capabilities change, how does your solution fit to that? Because a lot of companies may be building a solution that worked at that point in time, but the moment something changes, it fails. So very important to keep that in mind as you're building.
Sure.
One of the very important experiences I had was we built a platform and we had created measures of success that were all aligned with leaders. And when it came to measuring those measures of success at the end of the pilot, we realized there was a very important factor that we had not kept in mind. While the solution seemed to work, the operators were liking the solution, it was actually increasing our overall cycle time for the process. We would all assume that, hey, it's, LLM, it's going to reduce the cycle time, but we were surprised. The cycle time increased because the humans were, while benefiting from the capability, they were now evaluating every decision made by the LLM against their own decision, and that added, time to the cycle. So knowing that upfront, that some of that may happen and may be transitionary, and how do you evaluate a solution in light of that is very important when you're building something. So there should be no surprises. Otherwise, your pilots are going to go and die.
That's a big issue. A lot of these pilots die. It's their own natural death, and a lot of money is spent on these pilots and proof of concepts, and they don't see the light of the day. So I think that's a good thought. While obviously there are pros and cons of buy versus build, and there are situations rather than pros and cons, I would say there are situations where build makes sense, and of course in other situations buy makes sense. Can we take a hybrid approach, do you think? And why I'm saying hybrid approach, because sometimes companies, if they try to build it, they don't have the right talent, or if they have to scale up quickly, they don't have AI engineers or data scientists to build it. They have their own internal strong teams, no doubt. That could be one factor. But I think hybrid approach can be a good solution. As you rightly said, there are standardized processes which 10 other companies, 50 other companies have very similar approaches. No doubt, go for a standardized off the shelf product, because it has been tackled very well. The process is well understood. Where automations need to happen, it's all well understood. So go for that. If there is a unique uh, process to your organization, then build may make sense. But you can probably take in help of an external partner to augment your team, one, or pick some accelerators from their products. I know of a lot of companies, and including our solution, which is TransOrg IQ, our agentic AI platform. So while we have a SaaS model where we just, for a company, for standardized pre-built agentic processes, we are offering that as a solution. But for customized processes, we offer also some modules and accelerators which can be integrated as part of their process. And then we co-build it with the clients. We have recently did a project with a bank where they were trying to use agentic AI to automate their data engineering process. So our teams and their teams, they had very good business knowledge. We came up with our deep expertise of different tools, technologies, and agentic AI frameworks. So we had knowledge from our own TransOrg IQ product for the last 3 years. So we integrated some of that learning and accelerators and put that in their process. Any other thing you would want to add here?
I think that's a wonderful example of how we can drive success. You can buy a car from a dealer and drive it off the lot.
Yeah.
That's a buy decision. You can also then take a hybrid approach, buy the engine and build the car around it, right?
Right.
And I think that's the kind of work we have been very good at.
Sure.
The third example, obviously, is you build your engine yourself and you build the car yourself, which can be very messy sometimes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you may need to do that. But I think the hybrid approach works when you have the core solution already available, but now you want to customize it so that it works in your organization. So making sure you know exactly how you're going to deploy that is very important.
Perfect, perfect. So to sum up, Bobby, I think we have reached a conclusion that there's nothing called right or wrong here from buy versus build. So you have to see your situation, your maturity, your modes, your processes, and then take
Yeah,
a decision which makes sense for the organization. Thank you so much, Bobby,
absolutely.
for your time, and I really enjoyed this
Thanks.
conversation. Thanks.